This is the Milk and Cornbread podcast, episode 3. Milk and Cornbread go to Hollywood. So we're ready?
Yeah, we're ready.
We're good to go. This is the episode 3 of the Milk and Cornbread podcast. Believe it or not, we have 3 episodes. This is our third one we're recording. One of them is out. We released it, and we have more than 3 listeners. I can assure you, we have more than 3.
We do.
Yeah, and I don't even think my mom's even touched it.
Neither is mine, so
we're in good shape. We have more than 3.
Is it 1, 2, 3, 4?
4.
Maybe
is that what it is?
I think maybe Kennedy might have listened to it. So
Yeah,
that's 5.
okay.
So we're doing good. So we've done 2, and it'll be released later. We're going to do these weekly for now until we can't stand it anymore. We're going to do them weekly, and we'll get together and come up with a cool topic and talk about it. This topic happens to be our favorite movies, and what we're going to do is we're going to break it down, and we added Colin, the producer, to the show today. Colin, the producer, who's usually behind everything. I say usually, that means 2 episodes he's been behind.
Yeah.
This time he's in it, and Colin is going to participate in the top 5 movies, our top 5 movies, because he is a movie file. He loves movies. He loves cinema. And probably one day will be a famous screenwriter or director, and we'll list one of his as our top 5, I'm sure. So, before we get started, how easy was it to create a top 5 list?
Not easy. No, it was very, very difficult for the most part. I love watching movies, so yeah, I'd say it's pretty hard.
It wasn't bad for me. I struggled at the 5, 6 cutoff, but no, it was pretty easy.
I was the same way, and I'll tell you where I got hung up is probably the 80s. I got hung up in some of the 80s movies that I grew up loving that I didn't include in my top.
It may or may not be great movies.
Yeah, but for me, that was a tough one.
Yeah.
But
I know you might have had to remove Real Genius out of your top 5.
Real Genius and Weird Science.
That is classic.
I had to move them out.
Chet was. Yeah. Oh my gosh, I forgot about that one.
What was the model's name that was in that?
L.A. starts her last name. La something.
Yeah.
We're too young for that.
Kelly
LeBrock.
Yes.
It's LeBrock. Is it
yes.
Kelly LeBrock?
Yeah.
The Brock. LeBrock.
Me and Colin over here we have no idea what you're talking about.
Hilarious.
You've got to be a part of that because
Chet is one of the best characters.
Yeah. We're getting away from it, but I promise you, some of these '80s movies that aren't in I guarantee aren't in any of our top 5s or top 10s are definitely worth watching.
Yeah.
And we'll go over them at some point in time. I will make another prediction though. I'm going to make another prediction. I think that 3 out of 4 of us, our top 5s, are going to be pretty comparable. And I think one of them we're going to make fun of. We're going to make fun of.
You know, guess who that's going to be?
We're going to make fun of one of the top 5s.
I'm not going to know any of them, so.
Yeah, you will.
All right.
Yeah, you will.
We'll see.
So I think how we need to start this is we're going to do like David Letterman, and we're going to count down. So we're going to start with the 5th and work our way down to 1, and we'll do different ways to figure out when we finally get to 1. We'll spend some more time with 1 because that's the most important. So let's start with Big C.
Mm-hmm.
All right, let's do 5.
Right.
We're gonna go around the room. We're gonna say our 5.
5.
So what? Anybody have any guesses on Colin for 5?
For 5?
Mm-hmm. Y'all never guess.
I really don't know, and that's pretty. I'm around them all the time.
Are we allowed to ask questions?
No. I think you just have to guess. I think you just have to guess.
I mean, he doesn't know anything about like Man Called Horse or anything like that from those days. So
Can we give hints for the top?
Yeah,
for the 5.
Yeah, that'd be good. Let's get a hint.
Let's see. Let's see. What's her name? I have it written down. I don't want to give too much away. Darlene Cates is in it.
doesn't mean anything to me.
Me either.
No? All right. Well, this film.
Where is it set?
Set?
Yeah, where is it set? Where's the setting?
I think it's in Iowa. It's in a low
Field
country.
of Dreams.
No.
See, I would have said Field of Dreams.
American Psycho.
No. I think that's in a big city. But that's a good guess. I like that movie.
So I'll tell you what. Before you give us any more hints, tell us why. Tell us why it's your number 5.
Okay. All right. This film, for some reason, every time I watch it, I feel relaxed. You know, it takes me away, and It's a really enjoyable film.
Does it have Rachel McAdams in it?
No.
Is it
no.
a Cheech and Chong film?
No. I wish, but for some reason, when I ask people about this film if they've ever seen it, they usually say no, and I'm surprised. But because Johnny Depp is in it, and
Chocolat.
no,
Edward Scissorhands.
nope, not that one either. Not that
What's
one
the
either.
one with Leo DiCaprio in it? Is he in that one? Where he's
You would be right to guess what's eating Gilbert Grape.
Gilbert Grape.
Oh,
Gilbert Grape.
Yes.
Fantastic film.
That's my
Yeah.
number
That
5.
is
That's
a
number
weird
5?
film.
What's eating Gilbert Grape?
Yeah.
I've
Yeah.
seen it 100 times, and I don't know.
Yeah.
I couldn't tell you the main reason why I like it. I just feel like it's a great story. It's simple. It's a simple story about people living in the middle of nowhere,
Yeah, I think you're right.
Rural
about
America.
Midwest. It's Midwest.
Iowa.
Yeah. And that's got to be Leo's one of his first movies.
It was one of his first, and in fact, I think it was actually one of his first nominations for an Oscar.
Yeah.
Yeah, he was young.
And he was
I mean,
18.
young, and he was
He
unbelievable.
was, he was a fantastic.
I'm not. That's an okay movie for me. But Leo and Johnny Depp rock. They did rock it in that movie, so that was pretty cool.
He
Was Johnny Depp the brother?
Yeah,
Johnny Depp was
Yeah,
the
it was
older
a
brother.
brother.
Now I'm
He's
starting to
Gilbert
think about
Grape.
that.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
He plays
Yeah.
Gilbert Grape.
And he's
Leo,
Gilbert.
Leo plays Arnie.
Arnie that rides in the cart. They push him around in the cart and
Yeah.
something.
He has a mental
Yeah.
disability.
Yes.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, it's pretty good. All right, Houseshoe Hice. I mean Hacksaw Hice.
Yeah.
What's your number 5? Anybody got any predictions? I have no clue because I'm gonna predict it's got to be some kind of Disney movie or has Rachel McAdams in
No,
it.
I'm gonna guess.
Okay.
I'm gonna say. I know you're a Chris Farley fan. I'm gonna go with Black Sheep.
No, it is not Black Sheep, but
Tommy Boy.
you are right. You are right. I love Chris Farley. Chris Farley is one of my favorite actors. I still wish he was around. I think he would be putting out a ton more movies. But no, it is not Black Sheep. But Craig is correct. It is Tommy Boy.
Oh,
It is Tommy Boy. I
fantastic
absolutely
movie.
love. Like I said, Tommy Boy. I love it. I love Black Sheep too, but Tommy Boy kind of edges that one out. David Spade in that movie.
Hilarious.
Yeah, I love it. I could watch it all the time.
Bad guy in
Yes.
Little coat.
Yes.
Yes.
Well, I quote that movie a lot, so yeah, Tommy Boy is definitely my.
Why
My
is it?
top 5.
Why isn't it a top 5? Why is Tommy Boy in there and not Black Sheep, or why is Tommy Boy and not somebody? Because 5 is a tough point.
Yeah.
You know, because 5 is still super important, but it's not number 1, but it's pretty close, pretty doggone close. to
Well,
number 1.
yeah. I mean, I think a lot of my movies could have been in the 5 slot, but just I think Chris Farley, man, it's just he was my idol growing up, and I think I just in this show's sake, I guess I wanted to kind of throw that out there, maybe to be like a tribute to him in a way, because
And we saw him sing that song.
yeah,
With Adam Sandler.
yeah.
Oh,
That's
Brought
you know
tears.
I don't cry very often. I usually keep my feelings inside, but I did cry that night. Hey, don't say anything
it was
about
tough.
that,
It
but
was
yeah,
tough.
that was a good one. And Adam Sandler live, yeah, it's perfect.
Yeah, we
Good
saw
stuff,
when we
so.
saw Adam Sandler perform at the Grand Ole Opry,
I saw you smiling.
Yeah.
and he did the Chris Farley song.
Yeah.
The tribute, man. Oh
Mhm.
yeah.
Yeah, if you haven't heard that song, y'all need to go listen to it. It's fantastic.
Well, I won't make fun of you on that pick. That's a pretty good one.
Don't worry, we're still going.
Yeah.
That is a good pick.
We're
I don't
still
know how
going.
they could get any worse than Tommy Boy.
Do what?
They got to get better than Tommy Boy. And
Yeah,
Tommy Boy is a pretty good film.
It's a pretty
so-
good film. I don't know how. Yeah, that's gonna be a tough one.
My
All
wife
right.
loves it.
What about my number 5? Anybody got any guesses?
The Milagro Beanfield War. No? See, that's just, it's hard. It's much easier to guess our
It's
ones
got-
and twos.
You are a big fan of Vince Vaughn. I know that.
Yeah.
And I feel like
Swingers.
yeah, the breakup.
I tell you, it's funny because I'm not sure I have a Vince Vaughn movie in my list, and I think about it.
I
But
don't either. And
But
it's-
I'm gonna tell you,
and
but
I
I
love
am.
him.
It's you're right. I am a
too.
Vince Vaughn. I love there, and there's so many of his movies, Swingers and
Wedding
Breakup.
Crashers.
Fred
Breakups,
Claus.
all those that fit right there, and that could be easily be
Fred
that number
Claus is
5.
a great.
I love it. That is a great one.
Fred Claus
I
is
laugh
the
at-
best
Four
Christmas
Christmases.
movie.
Four
Yeah,
Christmases.
Oh, that is great.
Yeah. So I easily could have. I could easily have that. He could be a number 5. Any of his movies could be a number 5. Because, like I said, this is a tough one for me. But I guarantee you that old Cornbread over here can guess it in a second when I give him a piece of a quote. And the piece of the quote is,
Oh,
I will motivate
yeah.
you, Private Powell.
Yeah.
You-
Yeah, see, we've
Oh,
got
yeah,
some
yeah.
overlap here.
So
So-
my number 5 is Full Metal Jacket.
Metal Jacket.
Yep.
Full Metal Jacket, which is, man, I love
The first
that
30
movie.
minutes are fantastic.
Well,
the
yeah,
rest
I'm
of
trying
the
to
movie,
convince Jordan to watch the
It's
rest of
just
it.
He hasn't
wrong.
seen it.
It's
No,
just
I was the
wrong.
same way
Yeah.
because I didn't see the last hour of it. I was the same way as Jordan here. I saw the first 30 minutes because that's what everybody's favorite part is. Honestly, the last hour is even better.
Yeah, and we sat down.
I think the first 30 minutes you can quote it so well.
Yeah.
And it's just like crazy go, and then like the last part of the movie kind of settles down a little bit and you're like, man.
But it settles down seemingly until you get to the end, and it really just rocks. It just takes off.
Yeah.
It's a Kubrick film if that helps.
And,
you.
yeah, and there's some
I'll
there's
have
some
to watch
quotable,
it again.
there's
Yeah.
some quotable stuff in the second one too. One of my favorite
Oh, yeah.
lines is when they're standing in front of that trench full of bodies,
Yeah.
and they're trying to hold it back, and that colonel comes up and says, "Is that a peace sign on your helmet, or peace sign on your helmet, son?" And he's like, "Yes, sir." What is that supposed to mean? Whose side are you on? And he's just quizzing him back and forth, and I love that scene.
Oh, that is great. I mean, that's high. It's higher up my list. We'll touch on that one with me, but
All right,
no question.
So let's Mr. Cornbread, what is some evidence of your type? And I'll say, for me, before we go on, Full Metal Jacket's got to be in the top 5 for me because I like cerebral movies. I like movies, even though it is a war movie, it's a cerebral movie,
Mhm.
I think. And I
No
watched it with my
question,
dad.
right.
My dad sat down when I watched it with
Me
Colin.
too.
My dad sat down with me, and the stuff I didn't understand, he explained it to me, and it made so much more sense. And that's one of those that every time it comes on, I watch it. So no matter what point it's on, I watch it. All right, so your turn.
It was awesome.
Number 5.
My number 5 is Reservoir Dogs.
Oh, yeah.
Tarantino.
Tarantino Yep. That's the best Tarantino film to me ever, and he's got some pretty good ones. The earlier the better to me. That as time went on, and he got into some of the other stuff, and got his coke habit picked up. He just got off the rails with the Chun King thing and the Kill Bill thing. Not a big fan. Reservoir Dogs. The dialogue. They made it for nothing. They made the movie for nothing, and it was like I hate to even throw other movies in there, but those dialogue movies like Brothers McMullen, movies like that are just, they made them for like $25,000,
Yeah.
and it's just about guys sitting around, and the whole idea of having the names, I just thought was genius. I don't know who came up with that. I don't know if that's a Tarantino thing. I have no idea.
Mr. Peak.
Yeah, white, pink, black, and then for Steve Buscemi to be pissed off because he got a certain name.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know that they really thought too much about who was getting what name. Michael Madsen was Mr. Blonde, and
Yeah.
he was the man,
Yeah,
and
I love that
he's
guy.
talking, and he cuts the guy's ear off, and he's talking to the cop.
I love that part.
He's
Where he
talking
talks
to
in
the
the
ear.
Yeah, I mean,
Hey, can you hear me? You hear
oh
me?
my
Can you
God.
hear me?
When they're
Have you
sitting
seen
there-
that one?
I have not seen
Oh,
it.
man.
You guys are talking about this.
Well,
it's like spoiler alerts right
the
now.
one thing the one part of it that's like the most known, which it's a great scene, but there's other great scenes, but the tipping thing is what it's the most known for.
That's the
Is
very
it the-
beginning
yeah.
of the film.
The tipping conversation, why Steve Buscemi doesn't tip, and the old man gets mad and it's just hilarious. And Chris Penn is way, way undervalued as an actor.
Oh, he is very undervalued. I'm a big Chris Penn fan.
Yes, I mean he is, and when he starts talking and gets mad and he's spitting everywhere, but you want to talk about a cerebral movie, to me, because it's just bouncing around and you got these guys that, I mean, Keitel and then
Roth.
the great thing about Tarantino always had the same dudes in his movies over the
Yeah,
years.
Michael Madsen's one. He's in a bunch of it.
Yeah, and Keitel, and
Yeah,
it was
Harvey
the
Keitel.
cleaner.
The Wolf.
The wolf. Yeah, and which that character that movie's just.
You know what's funny? I didn't realize this until Colin. I told Colin about it. We watched Reservoir Dogs together, and Michael Madsen, Mr. Blonde, is
Vincent Vega's brother.
Is Vincent Vega's brother
He's
for
a
Pulp
Vega.
Fiction. If you listen to it, what's his name? Victor Vega. Isn't it Victor Vega?
Vincent.
No, in the movie
Vic.
Reservoir.
Vic Vega.
Big Vega.
Yeah.
And
So Big Vega is Vincent Vega's brother.
And here's
Gotcha.
here's a little
That I didn't know.
I didn't know it till the last time they're connected in the movies.
here's a
Pulp
little
Fiction
trivia
and
for you
Reservoir Dogs.
on that too.
That's sick.
Tarantino's next film after Pulp Fiction was originally going to be the Vega Brothers, but instead of doing the Vega Brothers, he was convinced to do Kill Bill instead. But that does prove that the Vega Brothers are in fact related, and there are ways that Reservoir Dogs and Pulp Fiction might be related.
Yeah, the old man. There's something about the old man too. I can't remember what it was, but there's something about the old man in there that's connected. I can't remember what it was. What was the other thing too about their suits?
Well,
Colin's
You were
our
saying-
Tarantino expert.
yeah, I love to.
The black suits and
The suits. You were saying that the budget was relatively low. It was $30,000, and everybody had their own suits.
They brought their own.
They didn't have
Oh,
any
yeah.
money to pay for any of that stuff. So if you look in the movie, Steve Buscemi's wearing black jeans because
He didn't own black. So he didn't own black
he
pair
didn't
of
own a
pants.
suit. So it was made for relatively cheap, and that was just a little bit of trivia
that's
about
a fun
that.
fact right
Oh,
there.
that's
Yeah.
killer, man.
And Michael Madsen's car, which is a Cadillac, I
I
believe,
think it's Cadillac.
a white Cadillac, it's in a lot of Tarantino films too.
Yeah.
You can see it in Once Upon a Time in Hollywood as well. But that was just a little trivia about
That's good
Reservoir
stuff,
Dogs.
man.
It
All right,
is.
so let's. All right, we're gonna go four before we take a break.
All right.
We'll go to number 4 here, and we're gonna go back around. And anybody have any predictions before we hit number 4? Like where somebody stands on number 4? This is
No.
tough. I'm gonna tell you right
Yeah.
now, just in this conversation, I've already thought about 10 more number 5s.
Yeah, I know.
yeah.
I mean, it's unbelievable.
Yeah, the second 5 would be.
Yeah. All right,
Y'all
so
might be able to guess my number 4.
let's go back this way. We'll start back
All right.
with Rock over here. I lost my place. Go ahead.
Cornbread.
My number 4 was filmed in Tulsa, which is where I was born, and I guess people from that part of the world, when you make a film there, it becomes. I had my best friend when I was in elementary school. His older brother was an extra in one of the scenes, and
I know which one.
Yes.
It is. I already know which one.
yes, and we just named our dog after one of the characters because Matt Dillon is one of my top 5 favorite actors. If Matt Dillon's in it, I'm gonna watch it. In
Yeah.
every movie
I
that's
love
been
Matt.
filmed in Tulsa, Rumblefish, Matt Dillon has been a major player. But my number 4 is The Outsiders.
Yes.
See,
Fantastic.
I haven't seen it.
Oh my
I can't believe you didn't watch that.
I
in
know.
school.
That's the book.
Y'all read the
No.
book in school?
S.E. Hinton wrote it, I think.
It's the
Yeah,
Greasers
I
and the
don't
Socials,
think
man.
I was there that day.
Yeah, but
I might have been sick that
My
day.
closest friend in 3rd, 4th, and 5th grade was named Chris Hogue, and his brother, Jeff Hogue, was in high school at the time. And when they were filming it, they came around and they were looking for blonde-headed, blue-eyed guys, and then they weren't, I guess in our part, they weren't really, I guess they had enough greasers. They were looking for socials for the rumble scene. And so Jeff, his older brother, got a few $100 or whatever to, I think it was like $100 a person or something, to be he was in the rumble scene. And but at the end of the movie, they have what the movie's setting up for is the big rumble at the end between the socials and the greasers. But then there's some, stuff that happens before.
It's
But,
unbelievable how many people are in that movie.
see, that's the thing.
Patrick Swayze, I
Patrick,
think.
isn't
Oh,
Harrison,
yeah.
not Harrison Ford's not in that movie.
No,
is he?
no.
No.
Patrick
But
Swayze, C. Thomas Howell, Emilio Estevez,
Yeah.
Rob Lowe,
Rob Lowe.
Matt Dillon,
Ralph Macchio.
Yeah, Ralph
Ralph Macchio's in
Macchio's
it.
Johnny. Then it just
Karate Kid.
yeah. This
Yeah.
was pre-Karate Kid, but
So that movie came out in the 80s?
God, Outsiders.
80,
came
probably
out.
86. Was it 86?
Oh no, it was
before that?
filmed. Well, we moved to Florida in '83, and it was
Oh,
filmed.
yeah, I
It was
guess
filmed in like '80 or '81,
Okay.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
81, 82, somewhere in there.
That's a
And but Dally was Matt Dillon in the movie. His name was Dallas, and they called him Dally, and that's what we just named the dog.
yeah.
And
Matt
and
Dillon is fantastic.
Patrick Swayze's Derry, and when we get another dog, we're going to be getting another one. It's going to be Derry and Dally
That's cool.
because it's one of
Are
Sam's
y'all-
favorite movies.
Is this something? Do you name your pets after movie characters?
We never have before, but Sam and I were watching The Outsiders about, I don't know, a couple, 3 months. Every time it comes on, we're locked in.
Yeah.
It's kind of like I was with my dad and Rambo when we were kids. And so we were watching, and it was like, we were sitting there talking, and we were talking about, and we both at the same time were thinking, man, Derry and Dally, what a great, because you had all these weird names the greasers did, and even the socials, you had Ape Face and all that stuff, but it's just such a it's not for everybody because it's different, but I just love it. And again, part of it's because it's where I'm from, in Sand Springs where they filmed part of it. I had my uncle live there, and I mean, it's just. But man, I just love The Outsiders. I don't know.
You got a cat named after a movie character too.
Yes, we do. Yes, we do.
So
From The
that's his
Hangover.
thing. He doesn't know it yet. That's his thing.
From The Hangover. Well, no.
Is it Chow?
Black Doug. Yeah. Chow. No.
Quit calling me that.
Yeah.
We have a black cat, so we called him Black Doug.
That's funny.
Yeah, and he's not going to be around much longer though, because the dogs.
Oh, the dog will eat him.
Yeah. But that's me. Yeah, that's number 4.
All right, so my number 4 has had. It's a number 4, but it's probably had more of an impact in my life ever than any other movie that I ever had. And the reason why I say that is because every time I get in the pool, every time I get in the bathtub, every time I get in the ocean, every time I get in the Gulf of Mexico, I think about this movie.
Jaws.
All day long.
Classic.
All day long. And to me,
The Boat Captain is classic.
oh, well, and I was going to say my favorite scene ever is I watch it over and over again, and I made Colin watch it, and I made Emily and Wendy watch it, and they look at me kind of funny like I don't know what I'm talking about, but there's a scene where they're comparing their scars,
Yeah.
and they're going on and they're showing their scars, and this is where I got this and this is where I got that, and they're all hammered, they've been drinking on that boat looking for Jaws, and then the ship captain starts talking about his story, and he's talking about the USS Indianapolis, which is a true story, and obviously that is a fictional story based on true events, but he's telling his story, and if you ever pay attention, history, he says he was on the USS Indianapolis, and what happened in Indianapolis was it was sunk, I think towards the end of the war. It wasn't like, wasn't even relevant at the time, and hundreds of sailors died from sharks.
Yeah.
They were eaten by sharks. And it's awful, horrendous history,
Yeah,
and that's a true
history of
story.
that
When I
was
hear
rough.
that, man, it gives me chills, and I think about it. And of course, my favorite line is, "We're going to need a bigger boat."
Yes.
Yeah.
That's what I love.
That's a great movie.
All right, Hice.
So I guess my next one, it's actually a Christmas movie. I love Christmas movies. I do. I love Christmas movies. I know I'm getting made fun of right now, but I love Christmas movies. So it kind of.
Paul Blart Mall Cop.
That's a Thanksgiving movie.
Die Hard.
Oh, that's right.
Die Hard.
Oh, yeah.
Die Hard.
Hey, I can't believe I didn't think about that.
Yeah.
I know. I lost. I forgot that one too.
Oh, sorry.
So yeah, it's a Christmas movie.
Die Hard.
I don't know if you guys want to try to guess what
I'm
it
going to
is.
say it's got to be a comedy.
It is a comedy.
Red Claws.
No,
That's one of my favorite Christmas movies.
Family Stone.
no, it's a great film though.
It is a great
My wife
film.
and I watch it all
Home
the time at
Alone.
Christmas time. No, but I didn't think
See,
about that.
we
That's
could-
fantastic.
4 Christmases.
Nope.
God.
Bad
yeah.
Santa.
No, it's
Home Alone. Did we ever say Home
Bad
Alone?
Santa.
You just said.
All right, what is it?
Nah, my number 4 probably be Christmas Vacation.
Oh my
yeah.
goodness.
Yeah, I was gonna say I don't know how nobody guessed that.
I know that's a tradition. We watch that in our
Yeah.
family every year.
Classic.
Absolutely love watching that movie. I mean,
Oh, no
Christmas
doubt.
time comes around, Halloween time comes around. What am I saying? I usually try to start watching it then. It always gets me in the spirit of Christmas.
It's very quotable.
It is very
Oh, yeah.
quotable. I think that's my thing. I love watching quotable movies.
That's
Yeah.
right.
Well, you know why? Because you remember it. You remember
Yeah.
that stuff.
Yeah.
I think it's good.
That is great.
I think about that movie all the time, and I probably quote that movie year round.
Chevy Chase is
Chevy
one of my
Chase is one of
favorites.
my
Oh,
favorite actors.
yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
And we
Fletch.
talked.
I
Remember
love
that one
Fletch.
night? Was that we were all together?
That's
and
a
we
top
started,
10 for
Yeah.
me.
We started talking about all our favorite actors, and we
Yeah.
just started listening. And there's no way that you can rank our favorite
No.
actors because
No.
we were like, oh yeah, what about Dustin Hoffman?
Fletch?
What about Al Pacino? What about Chevy Chase? What about?
Fletch may be the most quotable movie of all
Oh,
time.
I
I
love.
love
I mean,
Fletch.
it's just one after the next,
Yeah.
after the next, because he's got one of the best of all time. When she answers the door in the towel.
Oh yeah, I just ran into a water buffalo.
Could I borrow your towel? My car just hit a water buffalo.
Or
That
the one
dude.
about eating steak somewhere, and he's like, oh,
He said, "I'll take a steak sandwich."
And a
another-
steak sandwich.
Steak sandwich.
Yeah.
Put it
Yeah.
on. Put it on the Underhill.
Yeah. Yes. I'll take a steak sandwich and a steak
steak
sandwich.
Oh no, you're talking about the one where he was talking to one.
I just got back from work.
He said, yeah, I ran into Alan in Provo, Utah, and she's like, Alan's not in Provo. He's like, and I was wondering what I was doing in Provo, Utah.
yeah.
Chevy Chase was underappreciated
Oh,
as
man.
well.
Man.
Well, good choice. Good choice. Not making fun of you on that
Yeah.
one.
Okay,
was.
thank
That's a
you.
good one.
That's a good one.
All right.
Well, my film is, to me, it's a Christmas film, I feel like it's a good film to watch around Christmas. It's not necessarily a Christmas-based film. You don't see the Christmas history and tradition in it as much as you do other films. And you might make fun of me for this, for saying it's a Christmas film. Let me just give you a hint. Wyoming, Civil War, blizzard.
Brokeback?
Brokeback Mountain.
I was gonna say it's not on Hallmark Channel, is it?
No.
Brokeback Mountain.
Fiddler on the Roof.
No.
Cold Mountain.
No.
A river runs through it.
And I'll give you another hint.
I don't even know.
Earlier we mentioned that I am probably one of the biggest Tarantino fans out there.
Hateful Eight.
The Hateful Eight.
Oh, yeah, that's great.
That is my number 4. And,
Yeah, that's
and
good.
this movie
That's great
gets
dialogue.
a bad rap. People hate, with the Hateful Eight, people either love it or people hate it, and there's no in between. And I feel like more people hate it than they do appreciate it. But I feel like it's an underappreciated film. People say it's Tarantino's worst, but I feel like that's his best dialogue.
There's no way. That's his
Oh, the
worst
dialogue
film.
was great.
The dialogue.
It had to be because there was no.
There's nothing else to do.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And they're just, it's basically the set simple because they're
And
either in the
it's-
snow or in that cabin.
Or in a
here's
wagon.
Here's how I
The
put
wagon,
it.
Yeah.
It's Reservoir Dogs set in the Civil War. That's exactly what it is
Yeah.
to me.
Yeah.
And I've read the script. I have the screenplay, and
It
I've
really
read
is.
it. And the dialogue is just fantastic, and that's what Tarantino's known for. But I feel like, that dialogue really stood out to me, and especially the scene where Bob, the Mexican, who's really American, is playing Silent Night on the piano. To me, that scene gives me chills.
Yeah. Samuel L. Jackson's talking.
Samuel L. Jackson,
Yeah.
Marquez Warren is talking to General Smithers about his son, and obviously it's a lie, but I won't get into that. But that scene gives me chills, and that Silent Night playing in the background is just one of the best scenes to me of all time, and that's why Hateful Eight is one of my favorites.
Yeah, I agree. I didn't want to watch it because it did at first it did get a bad rap, and
I liked it.
I kind of refused to watch it for a while because there was something to do. Tarantino got caught up in some kind of political thing.
Harvey Weinstein.
That's what it was, and I was like, I'm not watching that stuff. And then I finally watched it, and I was like, wow, I'm glad I did watch it.
Yeah, and
And it was long and drawn out, but it was
Exactly.
typical Tarantino where they're back and forth talking banner, and I like that stuff.
there's no action other than gore
Yeah.
and killing people. I mean,
which is typical Tarantino.
typical Tarantino. But the other thing I like about it is the soundtrack, and being a musician, and that's one of the things I pay attention to. And if you really analyze the soundtrack along with the film, you'll notice that it's very simple. It's based off of 4 notes the whole time, and that's not a lot when it comes to music. And Ennio Morricone is an Italian composer. He's done The Good, Bad, and the Ugly. He's done all sorts of westerns, and he composed Hateful Eight, and that's one of the other reasons I like Hateful Eight is the music. So
It's like Lionel Richie.
Yeah, that's a good one.
Yeah, and for those ladies out there, I hear Harvey Weinstein's back on the dating scene, so you might want to check into that.
Watch out!
Yeah.
Watch out! Watch out!
well, we have 3 minutes left before we get to the break. So if you want to go ahead and wrap up our.
Yeah, so I wasn't really surprised. Well, I was more surprised with Jordan's 4 and 5.
Everybody thought in this room that I was gonna have some type of animation / Disney movies.
No, I was surprised, man. I'm impressed. I'm impressed with your 4 and 5. Now, I don't know, man. 3, 2, 1 is gonna be important, and we're gonna do it differently when we come back. We're not just gonna go around. We're gonna do some guessing games, and I got an idea for number 1 when we get to our number 1s that we're gonna. I'm kind of been
All
inspired.
right, real quick before we go to the break, movie that it's not in your top 5, but you watch it front to, beginning to end every time you see it.
Nacho Libre.
Oh, yeah.
Nice.
This is where y'all gonna make fun of me.
Come on.
Good Burger.
Oh, that's
No idea what that
Oh, you good bird.
No.
The breakup.
Nice. Roadhouse.
Oh yeah.
No
That's a
doubt.
good
It's
film.
tough. It's tough. You got to throw those in there because I think it's important that.
It's not even in my top
It's
10
it's
or
not.
15.
It's
Yeah.
not necessarily your
But-
top 5.
But I
you watch it every
can't.
time.
I can't
When
not
it comes
watch
on,
when it's on.
you're stuck.
I
to
can
the
quote
TV.
I can quote Nacho Libre from beginning to end,
Yeah.
but it's just not in my top 5. So that's why I like having that movie you can watch over and over again.
Oh yeah.
So,
All right, let's take a break and we'll come back.
All right. Hey podcast listeners, it's your producer Colin Shuran of the Milk and Cornbread podcast. Now, as a filmmaker, I love films, and I know you all do too. So we want to hear from you. What are your top 5 favorite movies? Be sure to share and tag @MNC Podcast on Twitter and play along. That's @MNC Podcast on Twitter. The Milk and Cornbread Podcast every week. Thanks for listening, and let's get back to the episode.
All right, back for round 2 of the Milk and Cornbread podcast. this round 2, we're talking about our favorite movies, number 3 and number 2. But we got a different way we're going to do this. We put them in a cup, and we're going to draw out. Each person's going to draw a movie out of the cup. If you can fit your hand in there.
Compliments of the Bluegill Grill.
Compliments of Bluegill Grill. And we're going to open it up here in a second, and we're going to read. Here, I'll let you go ahead and choose. And then we're going to read them out and see if we can guess whose number 3 this is.
All right.
And then we will move on to number 2 the same way. So,
I have an idea. We can do this kind of. I think David Letterman did this too. We process of elimination. Sort of, we start talking about the movie and its aesthetics and why somebody in here might like it, and then we come to a conclusion as to who might it be. So, you want me to start?
What if we don't know the movie?
that's true.
What if we don't like you know?
Let's start
like
with
I
you
said,
and see
I'm
where
only
we
two
go.
different
So
techniques.
you read yours off, and
All
we'll
right.
see where we get. We'll see where we go with it.
Should I say?
And obviously,
should
so here's what's going to happen. We get to Craig here. He's not going to know. So what we're going to do?
Just like name that tune.
Yeah, I tell you what. Let's go around and let's just guess right now, all 4 of us, and guess, and not say whose it is. Just guess whose it is without answering whose it is.
So don't say the film.
No, say the film, but let's say you'll say who you think. You say the film and who you thinks it is.
All right.
You'll say the film and who you think it is.
Gotcha.
I'll say the film and then at the end we'll reveal. After we do that, after all 4 of us
We'll
do, we'll
talk
reveal,
about-
and then we'll talk about why we chose that as number 3.
Gotcha.
How's that sound?
Yeah.
All right. So Colin, you start.
This is a really good film, and it's highly underrated, and I know everybody in here has probably seen it. So this is tough. I'm gonna have to say
What's the film?
it's called Chef with Jon Favreau in it, and I'm torn because I know Jordan has seen it, I think, and I know you've seen it, and we've talked about this. So I'm gonna go with you. I think it's your film.
All right. What do you got?
I'm gonna say Milk for the audience.
The movie that I have is Coming to America.
Oh,
I think it's a fantastic film. I know everybody has
That's great.
has watched the movie.
can I change mine? No, I'm just kidding.
But honestly, I think with with this movie being a comedy, I think it's Colin's.
Good. Well, I've got Willy Wonka and the Chocolate Factory.
Oh wow, what a weird film that is.
Yeah, so
Yeah.
so I know,
That's surprising that made somebody's top 5.
and that makes me want to say it's Craig's just because you're saying that. Because I know he didn't have it on there, and I'm fairly certain it's not Craig's. But so I'm gonna say it's Colin's. Colin is Willy Wonka and the Chocolate Factory. What do you
I
got?
would agree. I've got Full Metal Jacket, and I would say that it's mine. Because I had her right number 3 on here. So yeah, I got my own. So yeah, that's out of the bag.
Well,
All right, so we go back and re-guess.
So you got his. So let's hear your. Hey, it's funny because mine number 5 was
That's
Full
right.
Metal Jacket.
Right.
Yeah.
So why is your number 3 Full Metal Jacket?
Well, just because somehow it's weird that you can laugh hysterically at a movie where a man is preparing 18 and 19-year-old kids to go get their ass shot off. And I sit there and you know, I think we all know how that was cast. The guy was a former DI Army anyway. But I mean, I sit there and I watch this, and there's really, if you watch it for the sake of the film, there's nothing funny about what's going on. But I laugh to the point where I can't breathe with some of the stuff that comes out of that man's mouth.
Oh, it's perfect.
And then when they get over in the second half of the film, the dude that carries the big gun, the white dude that was from My Bodyguard back in the day.
Animal Mother.
Yeah,
Or
remember
something
My
like that.
Bodyguard?
Yeah.
Remember that from back in the, with the kid? Yeah. The
What's
thing,
his name?
I
Is
mean,
it Animal Mother? Something like that.
yeah, I don't remember, but there's nothing funny at all about it. But I just absolutely think it's one of the funniest films. But it's just unbelievable how they cast that movie. It's Kubrick's best film by far. I
Oh, by
think.
far.
And but yeah, I mean that's just.
How old is Matthew Modine in that movie, do you think? He's got to be young. He's pretty young in that movie.
I don't know, but he plays a part that, because when the balls that it took for him to do the whole, is that you, John Wayne?
Yeah.
Is this me? Who said that? Who? And here he went. And it was just like, golly. But, man, Private Joker's probably one of my favorite characters in all of movies. The senior drill instructor Hartman is definitely one of my favorites. That guy, classic.
I think again with that movie, especially the first 30 minutes is very quotable.
Well,
You can quote
until
it.
he shoots himself, it's just one quote after the
Yes.
next, after the next, after the
Where are you
next.
from? Private Texas.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Yes.
That's what you
Yeah, it's
remember.
fantastic.
What you remember about that movie is that first part, and a lot of people, honestly, people who watch that movie probably have not been past the first part. But I'm telling you, it is a total. You're missing out.
It's a psychological type film. It
unbelievable.
messes with your
And
head.
there's one thing I told Colin when we watched it. There's one thing that happens at the very end, and I'm not saying what happens, but there's something that happens at the very, very end. That's how the movie ends. Is literally they're singing a song, and I'm not going to tell you what song they're singing.
Yeah.
But they're singing a song at the end, and I look at Colin and I said, out of all this, they end with that song.
It's
And
chilling.
to me, it is.
It's
it really
demonizing.
is. Yeah, it really is chilling. But all right, so I'll go. I said Willy Wonka, and I said Colin.
Gotta be.
It's me.
All right, so let's hear it.
You know, Willy Wonka was probably one of the first.
Wait, Willy Wonka?
Willy Wonka.
Yeah, yeah.
Gene Wilder.
Gene
I do
Wilder,
not
one of
like.
my favorite actors of all time.
You don't like the Johnny Depp movie?
Although I have Johnny Depp
Gene
on my top
Wilder's the
5,
man.
I do not like Johnny Depp's Willy Wonka. But Gene Wilder is one of my favorites of all time. And that's partially the reason why I enjoy this film. But one of the main reasons is this was one of the films I grew up watching every day. I had a VHS and I had the DVD, and I would watch it all the time. Other than Christmas Vacation, that was one I would watch all the time. But Willy Wonka, there's something about it that takes me back to my childhood. You were talking about, before we recorded this, Raiders of the Lost Ark and Star Wars. That's your childhood. My childhood was kind of Willy Wonka. And that played over into my elementary days because I remember doing book reports on Roald Dahl, who wrote Willy Wonka, or Charlie and Chocolate Factory, the book. And the book is obviously different from the film, but one of the reasons I love the film is obviously Gene Wilder. It makes me feel nostalgic, makes me feel like a kid again, and the music. How could you go wrong with pure imagination?
If you want to view paradise.
Yeah.
But it was this childish film with kind of comedic, kind of laid back, but then you get to the boat scene and it shifts into a horror movie.
It was like horrific.
Yeah, it scared me as a kid.
When I saw the
It
first, I
can
was
scare
like,
you as a
what
college
happened?
student too,
Yeah, I mean,
if watched in the wrong circumstances.
right. I mean, it's just the way the film was put together, and even some of the best acting in the film is at the end, where we're in Willy Wonka's office and he's telling Charlie he lost. You know, because Charlie went to the bubble room and floated and broke all sorts of rules. Willy Wonka's telling Charlie you lost, and Gene Wilder is yelling at Charlie.
Wrong, sir. Wrong.
Right, yeah.
You had fizzy lifting drink.
And that's one of the greatest. I feel like that's one of the greatest scenes,
Is.
other than his entrance and introduction, where he does a flip, gets the cane
Oh,
stuck
that's
in the
my
ground,
favorite. Yeah,
and
that's
does the
my
front
favorite.
flip. But other than that, that's
Gene Wilder's
my
funny dude,
third
man.
of all time.
Yeah, that's a good one.
By the way, a little trivia for you. You may not know this, but Roald Dahl, his writing was also made into a movie called The Witches, or The Witches, something like that. And the second one is
4 Rooms.
4 Rooms. Tarantino is part of that. He has one of the rooms. That was a Roald Dahl story, which I blew my mind when I heard that.
He wrote a lot of adult stuff, and
Yeah.
he wrote a lot, mainly, I mean, Charlie and the Chocolate Factory was kind of an adult book, looking back on it. It's just,
Yeah.
children just don't realize that, and
Yeah.
it's made out to be a children's
Well,
book.
BFG.
That's I mean,
Yeah.
The BFG, you know,
James and the Giant Peach.
BFG stands for Big Effing Giant, doesn't it?
No.
No,
Yes, it does.
Big Friendly
Big
Giant.
Friendly Giant.
I don't know about that. Effing.
No,
No.
I don't think so.
Big Friendly. Yeah. Friends,
All right, we'll
you
look
know,
it up.
whatever.
All right, well, who's next?
All right, so I had Coming to America, and of course I'd said Colin. It's not Colin. It's going to be...
It is on my top 10.
It's going to be Milk. That's for sure. It has to be Milk now.
Classic.
Yeah, I love that movie. It's a great movie.
Oh man.
I think that's probably going to be in my top
10.
top 15.
Let me tell you why. I'm gonna give you a little insight on why it's number 3. Is that you go back to your childhood, and I remember between my 8th and 9th grade year, me and a buddy who lived two doors down from me, he had the VHS of Coming to America bootleg from somewhere. I don't know where it was. I got my bootleg stuff from him. I got that and my 2 Live Crew tape from him.
Oh yeah.
And it got smashed. Coming to America survived, but 2 Live Crew got smashed by my dad, unfortunately. But anyways, so we literally that one summer we made quiches, frozen quiches from the freezer that his mom had in the freezer, and we watched Coming to America every single day that summer.
Yeah.
And I'm not exaggerating. And I've lost a little bit of it, but for a while I could quote from the beginning to the end every single word of that movie.
Hey waiter, taste the
Well,
soup.
taste the soup.
Taste the soup.
Aha.
Those guys, the barbershop stuff with all those guys playing those same characters was hysterical. But the preacher was just
yeah.
oh my gosh, man.
You know the guy sitting in the chair getting his haircut at Mighty Sharp Barbershop. You know who that is? The young guy getting his haircut in Mighty Sharp Barbershop at the very beginning. You might know.
Cuba Gooding.
Gooden Jr.
Yeah.
He's in there getting his haircut. It's pretty cool.
And isn't A-Rod in it? Or
yeah, A-Rod's in it too.
as a young boy in the restaurant. It's also Samuel L. Jackson's one of his first roles.
Yeah, first role.
Before he was Samuel L. Jackson.
And he did say MF'er.
Yeah.
For sure.
That's going to be a movie I have to go back and check out
That's
again.
great.
But
It might move into my top 10 after I watch it.
It is in my top
I haven't
10.
seen it in a few years.
That was one of my 5-6 switch offs. I couldn't decide.
It's fantastic. But
But
that was Eddie Murphy back in the day when Eddie Murphy. And I love Eddie Murphy,
Yeah.
but that time Eddie Murphy was.
And he was clean in that movie.
pretty clean
Compared to
Yeah.
Delirious and Raw.
Oh,
Good
Delirious.
Lord.
All right,
48
I love
hours.
Delirious.
Colin, where you at?
All right, I got Chef, and I originally guessed Milk, but obviously it's Hacksaw Hice, and that does make
Feel
sense.
good movie.
It's a really good
Yeah,
movie.
It's a good movie.
It's actually my number 1 underrated film of all time. I got a little list I'm keeping
Wow.
of
All right.
different types of films. This is number 1 underrated, and you want to talk about why you like it?
Well, I mean, first off, I love cooking shows. I love cooking movies, all those different types of things. And I love John Favreau. I say that right? Okay, Favreau, I apologize.
Cooking
He's probably-
movies? What are cooking movies?
Well, movies that involve food. Yeah, I mean, whatever.
Like,
I can only think of one.
yeah.
Like Breaking Bad? Oh,
Yeah,
that's a
yeah.
cooking
I guess
show.
we can go that road
Cooking
too. No, I just always enjoyed watching it. I mean, like I said, it's a feel good movie. I love all the actors that are in it. And use this, a lot of people probably have the same thing I do, where you're sitting down and you're trying to search and find a movie, and you search for hours and hours, it seems like. But I always find myself landing on that one because I just really like it. And it has a good story to it, and I've always enjoyed it. So
I think I watched it because of you.
I think you did.
You told me to watch it, and I watched it, I
remember-
I was surprised because I thought it was going to be, and it really ended up being a really good movie.
I think I remember talking to Cornbread about that too.
Yep.
One day, and I said, "You need to check this film out because
We were in Section Z.
it's pretty good." Yeah.
John
Double Z.
Leguizamo and John Favreau.
Leguizamo.
Yeah, that's a name you don't hear much
He's
anymore.
but he's always good.
He's good.
Turturro,
Oh,
Leguizamo,
man, he is
always.
awesome.
Yeah. No doubt.
All right, ready for number 2?
Yeah.
Colin?
All
Number
right.
2. We're going to do it. Do
Who's
we have enough
gonna
time
be
to go through number 2 real quick?
Escape
Yeah,
at
we got
Dannemora.
half.
Yeah, who's going to be Meatballs?
Nice. Porky's Revenge. Oh, I got a little moisture on this one. All right. All right.
Sweating over here.
We'll start this. We'll start with Colin this time. Or who did we start with?
We
last
started
time?
calling
Started
it.
with
I'll start with Craig this time. Who you got?
I've got The Breakfast Club. There's no question that I think this is Milk's number 2. I guess it could be Colin's, but I'm gonna stick with and I absolutely love this movie.
Yes,
So,
it's a great movie.
I didn't know that you knew what it was, so that might.
Oh, come on, man! Come on.
So that could very well. I mean, that dates you, so I mean that could very well be you then. But a great
Don't
movie.
you
Although I don't know that we've
forget
ever
about
talked
me.
about it, so I don't know.
It's a great film.
I don't remember ever
love
talking to
it.
you about this movie, so I would have thought that we would have talked about it by now if this was your second.
Yeah.
Um,
It's pretty fantastic.
His son.
When you think about it.
Yeah, Dad.
yeah. So I don't know, honestly, now that I know that he's, I don't know, because, I'm going to stick with you, but I think I'm wrong now.
I actually have The Dark Knight, which is a good movie. I enjoy it. As far as Batmans go, I think I like that Batman the most out of all of them now. I don't know, the new Robert Pattinson. That's a little sleeper for me because I never seen him as, I wouldn't see him as Batman, but now I've seen some of the previews and he kind of might make the great Batman. But I'm gonna say Jordan Hice is that, it might say The Bark Knight though. That might be some weird porno that Jordan was watching. What does that say?
The Bark Knight.
The Bark Knight, but it's The
I
Dark
never-
Knight.
you
I'm
never
gonna
know.
say Jordan. I'm
Dog
gonna say
porn.
Houseshoe Hice.
We've been in quarantine for 3 months, so I don't know.
So you're watching.
Oh,
I'm just kidding, guys. I'm kidding. It's family show.
you know,
Family
bark is wood, and well, I won't get into that.
All right,
that's
I won't
okay.
get into that.
All
Joke.
right.
Never mind.
I have the Truman Show,
Ooh.
and
I know who's this.
know for a fact that this is Colin Shuran's.
I would say.
For a
Alright.
fact.
I've got The Godfather Part 2. Craig Brock.
No doubt.
Cornbread.
No question.
So we were 4 for 4 on that one, I believe.
So was I right?
Yeah, you're right.
Okay, yeah, I was gonna say.
Well, I guess
if
I had
he
to
was
be.
right. Yeah,
I
that's
knew
sweet.
yours had to be Dark Knight because
Yeah.
I'm not a big fan of that movie.
You know.
I'm not either. I like it all right, but I am a big fan of the Breakfast Club,
Mm.
and I am a big fan of what was the?
The Truman Show.
Oh yeah, the Truman Show. That was
Filmed in 38,
Yeah.
Florida.
Yep.
but the
Seaside.
Breakfast Club to me was the sleeper in that round. I didn't see that one coming, and that is a great movie.
It is a good
That's
movie.
another one.
I didn't even think about that.
The
movie.
Breakfast Club is another one that, and it is mine obviously, but The Breakfast Club is another one that when it's on TV, I'll watch it. And there are times where there's certain movies where it drives my family crazy because I will turn it up and I'll say, y'all need to watch this part.
It's filmed in a high school cafeteria,
And it's spot on. I mean, it is like,
and that was back in the Ringwald, Emilio,
the Brat Pack.
Yep.
The Brat Pack.
Yep.
And I make it. There's this one scene that I always make them watch, and I'll be like, y'all gotta watch this. Y'all gotta watch this. And it's the scene where is it Judd Nelson? That's his name, right?
Yeah.
Judd Nelson. Judd Nelson is describing what Anthony Michael Hall's family's like, what you said earlier, and he's like, "Hey, son, yeah, Dad," and he's doing the whole friendly, loving, and mwah, mwah, and then Anthony Michael Hall or Emilio Estevez, I don't remember which one, but they both look at him and they say, "What about you?" And then he goes into his rant.
Oh man.
And
It gets
it
dark.
gives me chills because I know people like that.
Yep.
I've known people as a kid and as an educator. I've known people who live like that. And he just, that next, when he's like, what about me? What about me? And then he just starts that rant. He's like, no good, sorry. And he goes in the whole thing and he does his mom, what about? And then the part that gets me every time though is when Anthony Michael Hall said, I always get those two, Emilio Estevez and Anthony Michael Hall, confused on the scene, but one of them says, "Is that true?" And he pulls up his sleeve and he shows the lighter burns.
Yeah.
And he says,
Yep.
then he says, "Did I stutter?" And I love that movie just for the sheer fact that I think as growing up, it's always related to me because I've seen each one of those characters. I not necessarily relate to those characters that I'm one of them.
Oh yeah, you've known.
But I probably am.
Yeah.
But I've known each one of those characters, and I've been the stinking assistant principal when he comes out there and I make $33,000. I'm just like, God, why do they make fun of administrators like that? But that's me.
Mine was. I think it was filmed in like what 73, 74.
74, 73, 74.
And the second one was a little bit different than the first one in that they filmed half of it. Seems like it's filmed in Sicily.
Yeah.
You know when they're over there as he's showing him as a young guy, and then Michael, ended up going over there to get away and all these type things. But the Godfather Part 2 sort of is the de-evolution of Michael Corleone, because in the first one he's war hero and straight laced and
Certainly.
tells Kate, I don't, my family, I don't have anything to do with this. And
You
then,
can ask me one time.
Well, that's what he becomes. Yeah, and so, that's to me.
And I'll be honest with you, Craig. Godfather 2 is really probably 1B for me. Like, and I'm not giving away anything, but I'm just saying that it was hard for me not to have that in my top 5. But it is in my top 5. It's really.
It's just unbelievable. The way that he chose to, because I don't think that his dad would have ever killed his. I mean, I don't think I'm spoiling anything. I mean,
it's been out since the 70s.
Yeah, he had his brother whacked.
Jordan hadn't seen it, but
and so I don't think that Dad would have ever gone for those type things. He was definitely off the reservation. But I don't think there's any question for me that it was probably his best role, and he's played some. He's played some big time roles.
One of my favorite ever.
What
would you say as far as 3 compared to 2?
I can't. I won't even watch 3.
Yeah.
If it comes on TV, I'll turn the channel.
I'm the same way.
And it's not even
the same.
Well, it wasn't based on any of the Puzo stuff. It wasn't. It was just the whole Andy Garcia,
Joey Zaza.
Yeah, Joey Zaza thing. I mean, it's just not The Godfather. It was a different deal, and I felt like for some reason, they felt like they needed to make another one when they should have stopped. Perfection. I mean, you dilute things after 2 and 3 and 4. They managed to make 2 that were
fantastic,
just off the wall, off the charts, and then you felt like you needed to make a third one. The third one was a bust.
Yeah, and really 1 and 2 are kind of together. They're really If you ever seen where they do the saga and they do 1 and 2 together?
Sure they are.
And they run it from 1 to and I like when they do that.
It's seamless.
Yeah.
But 3 is not.
No.
And 3 is not well done. It's not. The characters in 1 and 2 are the same guys. Right, you've got Abe Vigoda, and you've got all these things, and Sally, and Paulie, and Carlo, and then you go to 3, and you've got all these.
Where are they? You're like, where are they?
Well, you got these new characters, and then look, this isn't a sexist thing, but the reality of it is, in those families in those days, the women were not in the forefront, and then in 3, all of a sudden, there's more women things going on, which is not a problem in general, but for that type movie, that's just not reality.
Yeah.
I mean, it just wasn't.
It was almost like an afterthought because I don't know about this for sure, but I think Godfather 2 was 73.
I think it was 70. The first one was in 72, and then they started in 73, and I think it went over into 74. I think.
But
and then
3
it got released
is like
in 74.
87.
Yeah, it's
3 is like
you look at Michael,
1987.
and Michael.
Oh, it's a long time.
Yeah, he's an old man, and
it was it was almost like an afterthought.
Yeah, it was a bad deal. But anyway, great, absolutely great film.
Who we got?
Yeah, well, just before, I mean, I've seen The Godfather, and just like everybody else has, I'm sure, but I guess I don't appreciate it as much as other people do. But I think the reason I don't appreciate it probably is because I don't understand much of
Full
it.
Metal Jacket.
Yeah. So I think that's a movie that I'll definitely need to watch.
You need to watch
again.
with commentary.
Yeah, I guess so. Because there's a lot of stuff going on.
Well, you look at
a lot of
this, the
families and
Mafia
things like that are going on.
was very unhappy when they put that movie out
Yeah,
because
they were.
it was too close to home. So
Yeah.
Puzo had connections,
No,
and I think he
yeah.
probably. I read somewhere where he was. They told him that he couldn't say certain things. They told to Puzo. All right, go ahead. Who's got?
Oh, so my number 2, and really the main reason I picked this number 2, The Dark Knight. I'm not a huge superhero person. I'm nothing like that. I mean, I enjoy watching Batman movies, Spider-Man movies, the Marvel collection, whatever you want to say. But one of the reasons I picked this movie as my number 2 was because of Heath Ledger being the Joker. I personally thought that was probably the greatest acting I've ever seen on film. I thought he was amazing. Everything that he did in that movie was fantastic to me. Now, again, that's my opinion, and some of the movies that you guys have said in your top 5, I haven't even seen them yet. So I haven't seen a lot of good movies out there, but that was just a fantastic film because of him. And everybody knows that he passed away. Now I'm not saying that he passed away because of that film, but people say that he possibly could have because he took that role to to the extreme. But that's probably more my number 2 just because of that acting of that film. So that's it.
He's probably my favorite Joker until Joaquin.
Yeah, that was.
But that was completely different Joker.
It was.
But that was a good bat. And I'm telling you, I grew up. I remember when the first Batman came out with Michael Keaton.
Yep.
He was awesome, man. He was so good.
He was.
But then I love Christian Bale, man. Christian Bale played Batman to a T.
Yeah, for sure.
So he definitely.
I love Ben Affleck, but he's just not.
He's
not
not
the
the
best
It's
Batman.
just not. I don't know.
I think he's
another
a comedy
afterthought
Batman.
to me. I just think it's another afterthought to me.
Yeah.
And at some point in time, they need to quit doing it.
Well, kind of like Cornbread hit on the Godfather movies. You have Godfather 1 and 2, they're fantastic. And then you have Godfather 3, it's not so good. Same with Batman. I mean, you have how many Batman films out there?
Yeah, same with
So they're kind of redoing
Fast
them
and Furious
and
9.
they're
It's
doing
not
that.
as
Superman.
good as 6.
the first one. I love the first one, but the rest of them I can't get into.
Tokyo Drift, I'm out.
Oh, they're terrible. I started watching them again when The Rock came in.
The
Because
Rock.
I love Dwayne Johnson. When The Rock's in the movie, I'm
tell
paying
us the truth
attention.
about that there, George. All right.
Dwayne, if you're listening, I love you, dude.
So your number 1's when he plays Buford Pusser then. Walking Tall with The
Yeah.
Rock, son.
That's a great film, too.
Yeah.
All right.
My number 2 is The Truman Show, and I've seen this film a couple times, but it served enough times to be one of my favorites of all times. Partially because I'm a big Jim Carrey fan. I love every single one of his movies. I love his comedy. I grew up watching In Living Color, and people my age, I
They never
mention
heard of
that, they don't even know what In Living Color is.
I've never seen it. I've heard of it,
Really?
and I know about it, but
It's
I've never
funny.
seen it.
How is it that Colin's seen In Living Color and you haven't seen it in Living
Well,
Color?
I guess it doesn't fall
I grew
far
kind
from
of-
the tree, man.
I kind of had an interest in comedy and stuff growing
The
up,
Wayans brothers.
and so
man.
I wanted
Yeah,
to.
Wayans Brothers are great.
But anyway,
Pain, son.
oh, I love Major.
Oh, it's so
Major
classic.
Pain.
It's classic.
But anyway, The Truman Show, it just, I feel like it's never been done before. That story is something that you have not seen on the screen before Truman Show. And it's almost scary because it's possible, I would believe, not necessarily the government adopting a kid, but
Have
it's
you
possible.
ever thought to yourself that people around me could be actors? and I'm
We
just
talked
living
about
in
this the other day.
I talk about it all the
We
time.
talked about it the other day.
Because I never thought about that before until I watched that movie.
Yeah,
I'm like,
we talked about it the other day. We were like,
Could
man,
that
are
be
we
a
on the Truman Show
possibility?
right now?
that might be a possibility. Who
Yeah.
knows?
And
Yeah.
and to me, it feels like kind of what's going on in the world right now, in a way. Not necessarily having our own reality show, but the way it was put together, and I'm saying this from a filmmaker's point of view, it tells a story through its cinematography as a reality show. Because you look at the scene on the beach, well, that's not a real moon. That's where Kristoff, his creator, is. Well, that's not real rain coming down. It follows him everywhere. So from kind of like a behind-the-scenes perspective, I feel like the production design was pretty good in that film. But overall, the story is what makes it for me. And honestly, Kristoff is one of my favorite characters of all time.
Is that
Ed Harris.
Oh, Ed Harris
Yeah.
is great in every movie. he's
Ed
in.
Harris is classic.
He's great in every movie he's in.
Yeah.
So that's our 3 and our 2. We got our 1s left, and I think that we're pretty close to figuring out what our 1s are. I think some of them are probably the same. I will say that we've gotten so big after 2 episodes that we do have a guest in our arena here. We have a guest in our podcast studio. JK is over there. You like to say hi, JK?
Hello.
JK's here with us, and we'll get him on here as a guest one of these days. And
And what was your alias?
Yukon.
And what was your Globetrotter name?
You remember? I got him down. If anybody wants to know, you can email me.
Yeah.
So when we get back after this one. We're going to talk about our number 1s.
All right.
Oh, that's funny. Had to do it.
And now for a very special guest, 4-year-old Jennings. She's going to tell us her favorite film of all time.
Jennings, you're on the Milk and Cornbread podcast. We want to know what your favorite movie is. What's your favorite movie of all times?
Good burger.
Good Burger?
Yeah.
What do they say in Good Burger?
What?
What do they say in Good Burger? Welcome. You know it? Welcome to Good Burger. You remember it?
What?
You remember what they say in Good Burger?
Yeah.
What do they say? What does he say? Welcome to Good Burger. Home of the Good Burger. Can I?
Take another.
That's it. Good job.
And now back to the Milk and Cornbread podcast, episode 3.
So we're back and we're fully. It's the anticipation of number 1, and so we're gonna guess. What we're gonna do is we're gonna figure out and try to guess what our number 1s are, and we're going to go around and talk about what those number 1s are, and ultimately we want to know what the 12 or 15 people who are listening, what their number 1s are, so they can tweet us out, whatever. But I think what we need to do is we need to try to guess what our number 1s are. What do you think?
I have a different philosophy on that.
Well, you're the producer, so you go ahead and tell us what you think.
I think since we know y'all's number 1s, we know Milk and Cornbread's number 1.
And it's the same.
And
it's got to be the same.
And that is,
Godfather.
No doubt.
yeah, that's their number 1 film. So obviously we know that, so we can't obviously guess that. But me and Hacksaw Hice over here,
Or Houseshoe Hice.
Houseshoe Hice, what Jordan, we got all sorts of names.
Yeah.
Y'all might not know our number 1, and y'all might know our number 1.
I say before we go to us though, I kind of want to know, why is The Godfather the number 1 film
Sure, yeah.
for both of you?
I'm going to tell you this. Several years ago, I watched The Godfather every Thanksgiving. It is as much tradition in my family as eating turkey on Thanksgiving. And maybe that's just for me, but I watch The Godfather. I don't care what everybody else is doing. I turn on The Godfather.
Now, is The Godfather a Thanksgiving film?
It's more of a Christmas. It's kind of a Christmas time.
Is it? Okay.
But it
It's always cold unless there's
Yeah, it's always cold. But every Thanksgiving I watch The Godfather.
I'm just wondering because you say you watched every Thanksgiving, so is it kind of like the Christmas Story where it comes on TV?
AMC.
Yeah,
Every
it
Thanksgiving?
used to. So here's the
Okay.
story. Here's the story. So it used to it there for a while on AMC. It came on every Thanksgiving on AMC.
Okay.
And so I would turn it on. Well, then all of a sudden we switched cable companies and we didn't have AMC. And I thought I was going to lose my crap. I didn't know what I was going to do because Thanksgiving was coming up and I didn't have The Godfather. And so I ended up actually renting it for that weekend so I could watch it during Thanksgiving. And then the very next Christmas, which was a couple of months later, or a month later, my cousins gave me The Godfather for the trilogy, I think. They gave me The Godfather trilogy on DVD, so I have it now.
There you go.
So in case anything bad happens.
Well, didn't you
Right.
have the
I had-
VHS?
I had the VHS.
Oh, yeah, I
was
still
two.
have it.
It was
It's
two
two.
tapes.
Yeah, I've got
It
it.
was 2 tapes and it would cut off.
Yep.
I'll tell you the very first time I ever watched The Godfather. I was a teenager. I was probably Colin's age, maybe a little bit younger. And I watched it, and it took me about a week to watch it. I watched it, and I'd pause it, and I'd stop because
Kind of studied it almost.
because as a kid, you don't know what the heck's going on. And it probably took me about 2 or 3 times before I realized what was going on.
Not as adult
and,
either.
and to this day, and to this day, I can tell you that I watch it. I watched it. I don't know if I watched it 100 times, but it's pretty dang close that I've watched it 100 times. And every time I watch it, I pick up something else. And the other thing that's helped me with that movie is I actually read the book by Puzo. I read Mario Puzo's book, The Godfather, and it, there's some stuff in there that goes a lot further than the movie, and it helps you explain things. But I'm telling you right now, there's no other movie that I love more than The Godfather. And the intricacies of the story, the characters, the setting, the everything about it makes I can sit and watch it back to back if I needed to. And on Thanksgiving, I have actually watched it back to back. And in fact, it's got so much of a, to me, it means so much to me that when it comes on and it's not Thanksgiving, I have a hard time watching it. And not because I don't want to watch it, because I feel like that's one of those movies that is sacred to me. And I watch it on that time period, and that's when I really analyze it, and I watch it over and over again. And I just in the past few years, I've gotten Colin into it, and he started off, and he's like, I don't get it, it's too much. So we watched it one day, and I explained to him about Salazzo, and I explained to him about all the 5 families. And now, what would you say your ranking on that? A little bit better than
The Godfather?
Yeah.
It's one of those that's not on my top 5, but it is definitely number one somehow.
Yeah,
it's
it's
just
great.
it breaks the system.
Well,
So what are
yeah.
you gonna say?
Well, the first time I watched it, I was 12 years old, and my old man, we went through when we went through this phase of my dad, kind of like we've probably done, trying to get me to watch what he thought were great films.
Yeah.
And so the problem is I didn't have a lot of trust built up because he had forced me, up to this point, he had forced me to watch Dr. Zhivago and Fiddler on the Roof
Oh God.
and Yentl and anything with Omar Sharif and I was just like, you know, Kafka and anything about a Russian oligarch from the 1600s. And it was just like, man, enough's enough. So we hit this phase where we were watching Rambo all the time, which was just awesome. And then, but he said, you're going to sit down and watch this movie. Get comfortable. And I said, well, what do you mean? Well, it's 3 hours, 3.5 hours. I thought I wanted to be playing basketball. I wanted to be doing anything but. And I'm forever grateful that he made me watch that movie. But it was the first time that I had been introduced to Marlon Brando, who is,
one of the greatest ever.
you can't even describe his presence in that movie. And then probably the most underrated, I hate to say it's so subjective, but certainly one of the most underrated roles in the history of film was James Caan as Santino.
Oh, Santino.
Sonny, if you know, I don't know that Carlo was ever behind the whole thing with Sonny, and there's when you read the book, Carlo was probably a little bit innocent of that.
Yeah.
Honestly,
He was dumb.
He was, yeah, and he was so scared when Michael was, you know, that he thought that admitting that he might have something to do with it was going to get him out of trouble. He should have known better. But Sonny, you know, I guess you can look at that and think of, okay, what happens if, because the natural order of things is that Sonny takes over, not Michael.
Not Michael. He's
And-
protecting Michael.
Yeah, if Sonny had taken over, I'm not so sure that the Mafia would have made it, you know, at least movie-wise, because it would have been a
He
bloodbath.
killed everybody.
But the irony is that Michael took over and it was a bloodbath.
Yeah.
So, but Sonny was just unbelievable. But to me, I can't think of a single. There's 2 times in one of the movies that I didn't name in my top 5, which was Hoosiers. But there's
Yeah,
2
that's true.
things that I
Another
can
one, yeah.
that I can think of that were standstill moments for me in film when a line and the one from Hoosiers is clearly the Jimmy Chitwood deal, you know. But in that movie, when they go to the meeting and they leave the meeting and they're on their way back and they're trying to determine who it was that tried to kill Marlon Brando, and he says, you know, I guess that he's sitting there and the guy's sitting next to him and he says, you know, he thought it was Tatalia, and Marlon Brando says Tatalia's a pimp. Although, as to say he couldn't pull something like this off, he said, I did not know until this night that it was Barzini all along.
Barzini all along.
Oh,
Yes.
God. And that was it. And that was when Marlon Brando, who was the, you know, this gregarious sort of guy that was doing favors at the daughter, you know, and all this stuff. But the other character to me that's lost in The Godfather that I guess some people talk about was Luca Brasi.
Oh, Luca. And he's mentioned in the book. There's a whole chapter on him in the book.
See, Luca Brasi was big time in the book. He didn't make it that much in the movie, but you know that, I guess because that might have been one of the things that maybe, this is just theory, that the Mafia did not want them discussing. But every family had to have a guy like Luca Brasi.
Yeah, he had to have a Luca Brasi.
Was he the enforcer of the
He was the big guy.
And he was
Luca Brasi.
mentally impaired.
Yeah.
And one of the best scenes of the entire movie is at the very beginning, is, you know, at the wedding scene or whatever. He's having people come in, and Robert Duvall's in there or whatever, and he's having people ask him, you know, and the guy and the cake and all this. Luca Brasi has been rehearsing, undoubtedly leading up to this, for
Hours.
days,
Yeah.
hours.
Yeah.
And he's sitting outside the Godfather's office,
Don Corleone.
and he says, I hope your son is a masculine child, you know.
Yeah.
And he's rehearsing, and he goes in there and he can't really even get his words right But Luca Brasi would, and he did do it, but he would have done anything
For the Don.
for the Don.
Yeah.
And it did not matter. And Luca Brasi to me was one of my favorite guys of all time because, when they killed Luca, they had to, the first thing that they had to do, they knew, because when he went into that bar, they had to stab him through the hand, and then his hand, and through the bar, and
So he
it
couldn't
went
get
down
away.
into the wood, because if he only had one arm, the two guys that were trying to take him down or whatever could take, but if he ever got both arms free, it was over with.
Yeah.
And I mean, Luca Brasi was the man.
I analyze that movie every time I watch it. And more than any other movie I ever watched. And one of my favorite parts is right before the Tatalia's a Pimp. But when he's in the room with all the 5 families, and he said that he's bringing his son home, and he says, if something were to happen to my son,
Then your enemies will be my enemies.
that's right. I get chills when I think about that.
Yeah.
And I love that. And the characters.
Oh,
in
when
that,
he says, "I will blame somebody."
I'll blame somebody in this room.
Yes.
I will blame somebody in
Yes.
this room.
Yes.
And to me, that was huge. And the other thing was that when Michael said, "As long as my dad is alive," that thing, he did that a couple times.
Yep.
In Godfather 2, as long as my mom's alive, that he wasn't going to touch anybody. But I could spend hours talking about
Oh, I
Godfather.
could too. I could
So-
too.
All right,
I want to go ahead and say real quick before we go on to the next thing is y'all kind of got me excited. I kind of want to watch this movie.
You need to watch it.
Well,
we
you
need
need
to
to watch
we
it,
need
but
to
it-
commentary with you because there's so much.
Yeah, but it's so long that you
Yeah.
have to be able to just. You might have to do it in shifts because you got little kids.
Yeah.
But I mean, it's.
I have seen the movie. I have seen it, but I guess like what you guys are saying, there's so much involved in the movie.
You just need to start on Friday, and by Sunday evening, have watched the first and the second
Well,
one. It's 6 hours over that.
Do you remember, to me, when I remember it took me like 5 times to watch it, but I remember the time when they're sitting at his dad's, spoiler alert, by the way, his Marlon Brando's funeral. And
Cover my ears.
they're sitting at the funeral,
Nothing new.
and Tom Hagen leans over and he said, "I thought it would be Clemenza."
Yeah.
And the whole time, he says, "No, it was Tessio all along."
Yeah.
And to me, it took me a couple times before I realized that, and I was like,
Yeah, and then.
"But I'm telling you,
How about Clemenza though?
Fat Clemenza."
See, and when
this should be the
they
next
when they
topic
go
right
back in part 2, they developed a relationship with Clemenza because him and Clemenza are meeting, and they're robbing people or whatever.
Yeah.
That was when they were young.
when they're kids.
Yeah,
Like
but Clemenza,
teenagers.
one of the most classic lines, and people that don't even know it came from The Godfather, when the cannoli line, they don't even half people don't even know where that comes
Yeah,
from.
yeah.
But the detachment from death of those people, because Clemenza was just like, they just whacked that dude, and leave the gun, take the cannoli.
You know what's funny though about
the dude's
that?
laying there dead.
What's even more funny about that is if you fast forward about 5 minutes, right before he leaves to get in the gun or to get in the car, and they're all about to leave. His wife, he's walking out, and his wife, she kisses at him.
Don't
She's like-
forget the cannoli.
She says it. She says, "Don't forget the cannolis."
Yep.
And so what? And then he kills this dude. They pop this guy in the head. And so what does he think of? Is what his wife says. "Don't forget the cannolis."
It's
You
not
better
word in
forget
the least
freaking
about what
cannolis.
happened to that
Right.
dude. Yeah.
See, that stuff like that is what makes that movie.
Me
so
too.
much better.
I love
So
it.
we'll stop. I think we could spend a whole episode.
Yeah,
on
yeah,
that.
we
y'all,
need to-
yeah,
we need
for
to-
We,
sure.
need, we
Okay.
probably need to. We probably need to have a. We probably need to. I think we could watch it and have a conversation.
Do like watching the coaches forum on the national championship game.
So what I suggest is that at some point down time we watch it and we'll do like parts. We'll do like 30-minute increments, and we'll do sessions later on. Like we'll watch 30 minutes and then we'll stop, and then we'll watch. And then
We're assuming there's other people out there as sick as we are.
we are. I mean, I agree, but I'm telling you, we can help. We could bring people onto our side.
Yeah, well, I think
All right.
so.
All right, we'll shut up now.
Yeah.
Go ahead. So what were you saying?
All right. Well, anyway, obviously, your number one is Godfather. Y'all could go for days about that, but that's good. That's a good thing because I think films serve as a good way to have these conversations. But I think it's time to guess me and Jordan Hacksaw Houseshoe Jordan Hice our films. And here's the way we're going to do it. I'm a firm believer that movies play a big role in who you are. So your favorite movies tend to go along with what your character is.
Huh.
So, I don't want to get too much into that. That pretty much explains itself. But what we're gonna do here is there's thousands of movies out there. And
So you're saying High School Musical is not the one I should pick for Jordan?
no.
It's probably going to be an animation.
Although that is part of his character, but could be mine too. Could be mine too. But what I'm saying is, there's thousands of films out there. So I want Milk and Cornbread. I want you two to choose a film for each of us. That'll be our number one out of the thousands of films out there, based on our character and based on the previous 4 films we did.
Well,
Now,
this
before
is
you
based on
guys-
me knowing that this I think is your favorite film. I don't know. I'm basing it on your character.
Well, I was going to say, before you guys decide what my film is, Colin's a little different from me. My film is probably not going to be based off of my character per se. I just love the film for what it is.
There you go.
So
There you go.
that's that's the reason why it's my number one.
Yeah, and maybe my number one doesn't go along with my character, but
I don't think it does.
So he's going back now. He's
I
backtracking.
take that back a little bit. Not every film has to be that way, but the greatest films that we choose as number one, I feel like my number one will never change.
Your number one
It's
better be Good
Well, it's
Burger.
like my number
or
one.
I'm
My number one
rioting.
will never change.
I'm rioting if it's not Good Burger. I'm just gonna riot.
Well, Good Burger is one of those films that can't be on my list, but it is an honorable mention.
Yeah,
So while we're writing it down, I don't know if he's done or not, but
I'm having to deal with Hice.
yeah. So while he's writing it down, I think what
Yeah,
we
I'm the
need to
wild
do is make
card.
sure when we send this out, when this episode 3 goes out, that we need people to respond to our Twitter, which is M&C Podcast on Twitter or wherever, and they can respond with their top 5, and that'd be interesting to see what other people's top 5s are.
All right.
I think it'd be interesting to see what their top 5s and compare with ours, or critique ours, or say that we're terrible or whatever. But I can't imagine anybody saying Godfather is bad. You know, I know people who watch it. and they
Oh,
say-
my wife should say it's
Oh, yeah,
boring.
they
It's
boring.
those
Yeah,
I
type
know
of
people
things,
who
but
hate it, but I just
Yeah.
can't imagine.
All right, so you got 2?
I got one for each. Yeah.
Yeah, one for each. So
I'm interesting to hear what you guys have to come up with.
I don't think that I got Hice. I think I got
I'll
comedy.
start with Heist then.
I think it's gonna be
Start with Heist.
comedy.
What do you got for Heist?
I got
comes up.
Hangover.
The Hangover.
That's a good
That is a good film.
Okay.
I do enjoy that film, especially the one part where he goes up there and he cuts his hand. And says, "Oh, you know, a one-man wolf pack."
Yeah,
Wolfpack.
Wolf
Wolfpack.
All right, well, I
I
didn't
love
get it
that,
right.
but it's not it.
All right, what do you got for
I
Hice?
got the Notebook.
If my wife is listening, I love The Notebook. I really do. It's a great film.
please.
Rachel McAdams,
Your wife's not listening.
Ryan Gosling. Yeah, my wife probably isn't listening, but anyways, it's a good film. But no, that's not it.
That's not it.
No, it's not
Give
it.
us a hint.
No. This I don't know. This movie here, I love watching it. I'm a huge war buff. So I guess that's the
Saving
hint.
Private Ryan.
That's it.
Oh,
Yeah, that is it. That
Last
is it.
night.
I love
That's a
watching war
great movie.
films. Saving Private Ryan is definitely the top. But
That's
I mean,
one of
And
those-
you're not into Full Metal Jacket. And you love war films.
Yeah, he's not into
Yeah.
Vietnam. He doesn't because he doesn't
I think that's
understand Vietnam.
World War II is my.
Well, let me get into this.
thing,
I don't
so.
understand Vietnam, and I still love
Oh,
it.
yeah. Apocalypse Now is good too. But
Oh,
yeah,
that's
that's
a
a
great
great. Saving Private Ryan is a great movie.
It is a great movie.
I remember seeing it in the movies when it came out.
It
And,
was.
and I remember I had a friend who basically was like a parent to me while I was in college, and I told her about it. I remember going and saying, "Hey, you need to go watch Saving Private Ryan." She said, "I can't do it." My dad was there. He fought in Normandy.
Yeah.
And the stuff he told me, I just can't do
Well,
it.
they were coming on those beaches in that beginning of that movie.
Yeah.
That was one of the most
It's-
brutal beginnings of any movie I've ever
Yes.
seen.
Have you seen those images on Instagram and Twitter and Facebook where they show like modern day, like us standing on the beach, and then they show the black and white version
Yeah.
right next to it?
Yeah.
Like they'll split it in half. It blows my mind where they have people standing in France on the beach and they're like, taking selfies, and then the other half is all those bodies laying on the beach. It blows my mind.
Those are like the modern day or true heroes. They're the true heroes that sacrificed for us, and I don't know. That's just a fantastic film. Tom Hanks in that movie was phenomenal.
Yeah, he was. And you know what he
but
was?
yeah, I
His
love it.
occupation, spoiler alert. What his occupation was. He said in the movie.
He was a teacher.
He was a teacher. There you go.
Yeah.
Good stuff.
History teacher, wasn't
Yep.
Yeah,
teacher,
but
yeah.
yeah, that was definitely my number one. I think I'm gonna go home and watch that tonight. Actually,
Nice.
it?
I have to pull it out.
Fighting Sullivan's.
That's a good one.
I've seen a lot of World
that's
War
what
II movies.
creates Saving Private Ryan in a way.
Thank you for Jason in the crowd. He's all,
Yukon Jack.
Yukon Jack, Yukon Cornelius.
Oh.
No, Yukon Jack. That's a different story.
Oh, that is a different story. That right there.
That may be another
That should be.
conversation. SWF bro.
Not sure we have time for that.
Yeah.
That's an
Yeah.
on-site deal.
Yeah.
Maybe they'll let
All
us
right.
do a
So we,
at SWF.
yes,
Yeah, that would be
They would.
funny.
I guarantee he would.
they would. They would.
Yeah.
All
All
right.
right. What's your Colin Shuran?
Once
number
upon a
one?
time in Hollywood.
Really, number one. That's your
Yeah.
number one. Okay, I got you. I think it's a good one. I guess Pulp Fiction.
Yeah, it's Pulp Fiction.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
I mean, you
I
can't.
do like Once Upon a Time in Hollywood. I'm not sure it's on my top 10.
Pulp Fiction's in my top 10.
Yeah.
I knew it was a Tarantino movie.
Yeah,
I
had
had
to
a
be.
I'm
feeling
a
that it was.
Tarantino. I mean, Pulp Fiction. Other than Nacho Libre, which is not on my list, I can quote Pulp Fiction from beginning to end. I know exactly what's going on. It's kind of like Godfather for y'all. Y'all know exactly what's going on. If somebody watched Pulp Fiction with me, I could explain the play-by-play. The dialogue. If you want to talk about quotable films,
Oh, God, no doubt.
I'm not gonna spoil anything because
That's a tasty cheeseburger.
Hacksaw Hice has not seen this film, so
I
I
have
won't
not.
spoil anything.
Who's Zed? Zed's dead.
Zed's
baby.
dead, baby.
baby.
Zed's dead.
Zed's dead.
And well, I won't spoil that, but that will make me say that this movie is not in order. It's non-linear. So the
All of
ending
his movies
is in the
are, yeah.
beginning.
Yeah. And really,
And really,
the last 7 minutes of the movie is my favorite part of the whole movie.
Oh yeah, well Samuel L. Jackson, that his whole monologue is just fantastic,
Oh, that's
and
great.
it
Oh,
gives
it
me
is.
Walking around
The
like
whole-
kung fu.
the whole
Like David
ending gives
Carradine.
me chills. In the end, it's just
No, the only thing. This is. I mean, I love Tarantino, and I love Pulp Fiction is a top 10 for me. It's in the second 5 for sure. But I mean, I get all of the sort of going in a weird direction and going off, and I totally think it's cool. But the whole GIMP thing,
That was weird.
I never, to this day, I've read about that movie. I still have not been able to, because, I mean, there's a cage in the corner. And I'm sitting there going, I remember watching it the first time, and I'm sitting there watching with a buddy, and
They
I
could
go,
have left that out.
what is happening with the cage in the corner? Yeah, and I mean, it was just, and he says, get the GIMP. And I'm sitting there going, what?
yeah.
That to me is like, I think that's when he had, maybe he was averaging a half an 8 ball a day. I think he snorted a whole 8 ball that day.
Yeah.
Because I still can't figure out, when you look at his movies, as weird as they might be, all of them, most of them, until you started getting to, I guess some of the later ones, but I mean, they somehow in a weird way made sense.
Oh yeah.
That part still makes no sense.
The whole,
in
the whole
the past-
scene with the rednecks doesn't make sense to me.
No,
It almost seems like
was-
it's out of place.
it is. It was almost. I'm not so sure it wasn't his first foray into sort of political needling,
Maybe so.
because I can't figure out where that came
It does-
from.
yeah, it doesn't
When you
make-
look in the framework of his movies, I mean, I don't know. It's not the first time that he had. Look at Jackie Brown and the Robert De Niro part. I mean, he was sort of a redneckish. I mean,
Yeah.
he was kind of a rough around the edge. So it's not like the first time that he had those people. But I still can't figure.
He came out with an interview in the past week about the GIMP, and I read
Oh,
about
really?
it. Yeah, and I won't get into it too much, but it's interesting what he says about it, and I'm not sure if it was drugs or what, but
Had to be.
but
Have you not seen it?
No, I have not.
we gotta
it's
watch
a weird.
it.
The
Yeah,
first
there's a lot
time
of
I
movies I
saw
have
it,
not seen that you guys
gotta
have in
see
your
it.
top
But that
5.
one, I would say,
it was
as much as I love The Godfather, it's a shorter movie, and you don't have to sit there and just grind over certain.
Yeah.
There's certain parts of The Godfather you got to grind through. Let's just be
Yeah,
honest.
you do.
Yeah.
But there's no grinding in that movie.
No,
I mean it's like
And you're guessing the order the whole time too. You're really
Right.
guessing the
You
order of
won't-
the movie.
It won't make sense to you until your second watch.
Yeah.
And the first time I watched it, that movie had one of the first in it for me, especially in the scene behind the pawn shop where Marcellus Wallace is over there
Yeah, it's bad.
leaning over something. I
Yeah.
won't say what he's doing, but
yeah, it's bad.
giving him the business.
yeah, it was bad. I'm about to get all medieval on you.
Yeah.
Oh
Oh yeah.
that's a real
Marcellus Wallace was a bad man.
Is that on
Yeah.
the Bark Night?
He
too?
worked it. He worked
Yeah.
at Wendy's for a little while.
Because you remember the deal that he made with the guy. I don't know. That may be lost on some people, but the deal that he made was you get out of town.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, not everybody can make that deal because you're in a big city, and you're telling somebody in a city of 10 million people that you've got to get out of town. Well, what's implied in that is that if you stay in town, I'm going to know about it.
Yeah.
Marcellus Wallace was a bad man.
It was bad.
He was, and they don't ever really go into the detail, the depth of it. But I'm telling you, just the idea that you're going to get out.
We threw somebody out a window for giving his girlfriend a foot massage.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. He was.
You wouldn't do that?
The fat Polynesian guy, Tony
Yeah.
Rocky Horror.
Oh, that's what I'm telling you.
You got to see it.
One more thing I'll say about Pulp Fiction is that even though it's A, non-linear, and B, it's told in chapters. There's 3 different stories. People say it's only 3 chapters, but I would say there's 4. There's Jules and Vincent. There's Vincent and Mia, which is Marcellus Wallace's girlfriend. There's Butch, who is Bruce Willis,
He's a boxer.
the boxer, and there's Honey Bunny and Pumpkin. And people don't count the diner scene, which
But
is
that's the best. That's the best part of it.
well, it doesn't matter if it's the best part. They don't count it as part of the story. But it's told in 4 chapters. But basically, all of those chapters are connected in some way. Marcellus Wallace is in Butch's story, and he's also in Vincent and Jules' story. Butch is not necessarily in other people's stories, but Mia's and Marcellus's story and Vincent's story. So as this whole thing is set in different chunks, basically it's like if you were to take one of your favorite films and take different chunks and replace them. Kind of like a magician does the cup and balls. You know, you got to follow along.
That's cool.
Yeah, I was gonna say I got it.
Yeah,
You got it when you heard cup and ball.
Well, that's the first
That's
thing
what she said.
Yeah, whatever.
But my old man took my mom to watch that movie.
Oh my
And
god.
my mom, after like the first 10 minutes, got up and walked out. And
Yeah.
I told my dad, I said, Dad, why would you take her to see that? He said, well, I didn't know. And I thought, well, Tarantino is not a mom movie.
No.
Yeah. And that's one of those movies that I could talk all day about too. It's just, to me, it's perfection. People hate it. People love it.
I don't know. I've never talked to anybody that hates it.
I've seen it.
People
I've heard a
all
few.
love it.
I've heard a few.
I was gonna say.
I promise you, to me, it's worth the trip when you watch the last 7 minutes of it.
Oh yeah.
Last 7 to 10 minutes of it when they're in the diner
Chills.
is the best dialogue
Well,
that exists in Tarantino.
not
movies.
even that. On top of that, the last 15 seconds.
Yeah, that's true. That's true.
The last 15 seconds. I mean, I won't spoil it for you.
It's
That's
But
how a lot of Tarantino movies are.
It's the older brother of my number 4. You know, I like Reservoir Dogs better probably
yeah.
because it was the first one.
Yeah.
I could easily see if Pulp Fiction had come along before Reservoir
Yeah.
Dogs, I
Mhm.
might be
Yeah.
that one might be there for me because, but that first time you ever see, you know that, you know, because he makes movies differently,
Oh yeah.
Oh yeah.
and
He makes them for himself. He doesn't care what other people
and
think.
he is whacked. The dude is whacked.
Yes.
So, what's your favorite over there?
Was that?
What's your number 1? Give us a hint. Quick.
Christmas?
Christmas.
Die Hard.
Yeah, there
We
you
talked
go.
about that earlier,
Yes,
yes.
yes. Perfect.
That is.
And that's an argument on itself whether or not it's a Christmas
with
movie.
Christmas
I say it is. I say it's a Christmas
I say it's a
movie.
Christmas movie, and it's in my top 10.
Yeah, definitely.
So
Definitely
we
Die
just
Hard.
talked about 2 because Pulp Fiction and Die Hard are both in my top 10.
Yeah.
And they just didn't make the top 5. But Die Hard was the original.
Yeah.
I mean, the man. He was a superhero that, but he felt pain. He was bleeding. He wasn't. Oh man.
Before we go, let's take like 2 seconds each one of us to tell of a underrated movie that you would watch over and over again that you want to
I
tell
got
other
it.
people. So what's yours?
Other than Nacho Libre, same director,
Nacho Libre's a good one.
Napoleon Dynamite.
Oh, yeah.
Nice.
Goodness gracious.
Nacho, yeah,
Same
Napoleon Dynamite's
director,
hilarious.
Jared Hess. He's
Tina.
great. He's great.
What about you, Jordan?
I would think mine. I grew up watching this movie a ton. It kind of formed my childhood in a way. I won't say it formed my childhood, but I just love the movie because it was all about my childhood. But Fast and the Furious.
Fast and
I
Furious.
love that movie. Growing up as a kid.
The first one's great. I
Yeah,
love
the first one. The first one.
Interesting. I kind of relate to it as Training Day. Training Day kind of.
Oh yeah. That's
another
true
one
too.
of those.
Yeah.
For me
We're not
is
gonna make it.
Clerks. I'm a Clerks guy. Black and white, low budget. What about you?
Digstown.
Oh yeah, Dick
One of the
Santa.
most underrated movies.
Santa.
Bruce Dern, James Woods, Lou Gossett Jr.
Oh, perfect.
Classic.
All right, man. Well, we're gonna. I don't know what the next episode is gonna be about, but it's gonna be cool. So we're gonna share it, and we'll get after it.
That's about all the time. So until next time.
Thanks for listening to the Milk and Cornbread podcast. Your hosts are Mick Shuran, known as Milk, and Craig Brock, Cornbread. This podcast is produced by Colin Shuran in association with Blue Creek Productions. Music by AudioBlocks.com. Names of events and people may have been modified to protect personal identities. Don't forget to follow us on social media and check out our website, milkandcornbreadforamerica.com. Thanks for listening, and we'll catch you next time.